but I don't feel like ours today.
Okay.
Not at all.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Can you hear me?
I had to unmute Mike. Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Thank you all for your patience there. We're going to jump right on into it for the interest of time. Yes, but thank you for being here. My name is Clay again. I am Prudential Media with Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival, and I definitely was looking forward to definitely talking about your film, your film coming up here. So thank you again for your time today.
Yes, 100%. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I'm here. I know Fumi is here. Fumi, I know, is doing a couple of things, so I don't know if she'll come come on camera. But nonetheless, yes, thank you again for the opportunity, and we're definitely looking forward to a great time up in Martha's Vineyard at the festival.
Yes, for sure. So tell me, so just tell me, what was what were the origins of producing this entire story? Because this is certainly one to know about. Because before 1965, the Duke men's basketball team was racially segregated. What led you to explore this story about Claudius B, aka CB Claiborne, Duke's first Black student athlete?
Yes, of course. So I'm Javier Wallace, and I'm one of the co-directors and the co-producer of the film CB Power
Mhm.
to the Player. And before me going to university to work as a postdoc back in 2021, I never heard of CB Claiborne. But because I've long been interested in race and sports, when I do go to Duke in 2021, and knowing that it is a historically white university and knowing that it's in the state of North Carolina, I just imagined in that there was a story of integration. And so I wanted to know who was the first Black basketball player because of the prominence of Duke's men's basketball team. And that's when I came across CB Claiborne. And I just wasn't satisfied in many ways on the things that I read about him, especially by the time I got on the phone with him for the first time, and then the journey that he took me through over the phone and listing out the things that he was able to do while at Duke and over his lifetime that expanded beyond the basketball court. It just blew me away how silent the university had been for near 60 years about this instrumental figure, especially given that the men's basketball team has one of the biggest brand recognitions in the entire world. And a lot of our the university owes a lot of itself to the basketball team. And how can we not recognize the person who made it possible for the team to be the way that it is now and for the university to be there? So it just felt like a story that needed to be told. And a couple of years later, that's when I meet Fumi. Well, I knew Fumi from Austin, but we meet again in this instant. And Fumi is such a talented filmmaker that really was engaged with the story and decided to help take this thing on, to take the story from writing and research to the big screen. And she has done a wonderful job in helping to narrate this great story on a medium that many people can engage with.
From 1965 through to 2022's record-breaking 5 Black NBA draftees, I thought that's not just progress, that's transformation. And just for full disclosure, I'm actually in Durham, North Carolina, as we speak right now. We'll be headed to Martha's Vineyard this weekend, and Duke is literally right down that street. Yeah,
All
you
right.
can see the shadow. So yeah, this is literally very close to home, almost literally and figuratively speaking. The chapel you can see from, and one of their first buildings coming up is literally right down the street from where I'm seeing from right now. But how does CB's individual story illuminate that massive institutional shift?
Um, you just said it. Five on that 2022 NBA draft. That was one of the biggest, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest draft class that the university has seen out of the program. And 5 of those individuals are all Black people. And if we would go back before 1965, that was absolutely impossible, nowhere near impossible. And so the transformation, it lives in what we have seen. in the progression and the excellence of the program itself. Because in addition to those 5 young men whose lives are transformed when they get drafted to the NBA in 2022, is there also are 5 men's national championships in the NCAA that are also won leading up to 2022. And none of them have been won without a Black player, none. And so that, for me, signals that what CB was able to do by being the first, and not just being the first by showing up, but fundamentally knocking down those barriers of discrimination, has transformed the university again to give it the most recognizable part of its brand, which is the basketball team and all the things that come from that. And then also the participation of Black players, the labor from Black players that go, the labor and their talent that goes into powering this system. It all, in that regard, started with CB coming in, and the people who were adamant, like the coaches from the historically Black colleges and universities that all formed him as a basketball player and as a young person and within a community, all played a role in what that signaled in bringing down that Jim Crow barrier. And now the fruits of that are tremendous, billions and billions of dollars recognition around the world. Lives are continuously changing, and lives are continually changing from that.
Let's talk about the Allen Building takeover. For those unfamiliar, can you quickly explain what that was and how CB's participation connects his athletic and activist identities?
Fumi, you want to take that one?
I would love for you to take it, actually.
Okay.
No,
well,
just because you did such a great job of introducing it.
Okay, no problem. The Allen Building takeover is a very prominent event that happens at Duke University in 1969. It is it's not the culminating event, but it is an event that is a result of multiple attempts by Black students on Duke's campus, and CB being one of those Black students on campus that had been advocating for change and pushing back against the university. And I will be remiss if I don't also include the Black staff workers, like the Black janitors and the domestic staff that was also pushing back against some of these racist policies and discriminatory policies. By 1969, by the time the students take over the administration building, there had been requests, there had been study-ins, there had been a lot of petitioning to make the university a more equitable place for Black students and Black people who work there, and they all fell on deaf ears, the requests. And so the Allen Building takeover is when the students decide to escalate it a bit more and hold a protest in the administration building to have their voices heard. And they do not intend to do it in any violent fashion. They only request that the people vacate the building in which they lock themselves in to force the president of the university to hear their requests and meet their demands that they're making, which they are making against the university, but quickly turns violent. It turns violent because of the response of the university, the president specifically speaking, President Knight at that time, insinuating that this is a violent takeover, and he meets their peaceful protest with violence, calls in the National Guard, which at that time, if we know the history of the United States, this is not confrontations that do not have the potential not to end in violence and death, because there's other examples of administration building takeovers or uprising on college campus where students are killed. And so they call in the National Guard. CB, he misses practice. He misses a game to participate in the Allen Building takeover. And he vividly remembers having to escape the building and seeing the National Guard come in with their rifles, with tear gas, with their bayonets, with the batons. They're breaking things that they're blaming on the students, escalating the situation, escalating the level of violence that the students never intended or never participated in, and then doing those things. But the result of the Allen Building takeover is that once it all calms down and the students successfully legally defend themselves against the university, it forces the university to then meet the demands that these students have laid out, called the Black demands. And that gives us the African American Studies Department, which is the way that I come to Duke in 2021. It forces the university to recognize that the Black staff have been demanding higher pay and better living wages, and they are now they are meeting the requests of what these people have rightfully demanded and rightfully deserved. And it fundamentally changes the university to this day, that Duke continues to reap the benefits of those students who went into that building and were violently removed from that space, which included the first Black basketball player who missed basketball game to do that.
Being the first anything is incredibly isolating and pressured. What did CB share about navigating that pioneer burden while also being activists on campus?
What CB Claiborne has shared with me about that is it wasn't easy. And he often shares about the people that he knows that are his contemporaries in other spaces that did not make it out of those environments okay. That it was, at that time, right, to be the only person on a team in a space where people necessarily don't want you to be there, are resistant to you being there, and are making it known on a daily basis. And that includes some professors on the educational side, and still trying to do something for yourself and for your family, your community. Holding that burden in many ways of a community of people and not just yourself, if for anybody is a heavy burden to carry. But he did it, and he often did it with grace, and he holds it with grace when we talk to him to this day. But one thing that he shares is he's just amazed how much he was able to push through, endure, and compare to other people that they weren't. And he often will talk about not wanting to talk about some of the things that happened and what some of the things that were said to him, because they're not worth repeating. But he also has a great time at Duke as well, too, with the friendships that he makes. He meets his initial wife at Duke. They marry, they have kids who are still with us to this day. There's a lot of his career as an engineer. It bursts itself out of Duke during this time. He has lifelong friends that I've been able to meet that have come out of that relationship he had at Duke. And so it is not all bad, him being the first and pioneer, because his life does progress, but it is something that is a challenging experience to have lived.
Yeah, someone who analyzes how institutions change, I'm fascinated by this dual role of student athlete and civil rights activist. How you think how did CB balance representing the university while challenging its very foundations? If there's another angle to spin on that.
That's a great question. And I say that's a great question because in the current moment that we're in, we have a lot of questions about athletes and Black athletes specifically, and then athletes that are at universities taking on social issues and standing up and protesting and engaging in activism, if they should do that or not. Or what somebody suggested to LeBron James is that he should just shut up and dribble, right? We have a great example in CB that 60 years ago that he was showing up that way and saying, I'm not going to shut up and dribble. I'm not going to be a good Negro. I'm not going to be happy and grateful for being here. I'm going to use the platform that I have earned and use this platform to advocate for change and to agitate for change when necessary and be the activist. And I'm going to sacrifice one of the most coveted things for an athlete, which is playing time. And I really feel that as somebody who played college football, to say that's a tough position to be in. Are you willing to give up the thing that allows you to be in this place to help you further your life by getting a degree maybe and not participating in the sport that you played your entire life and have invested so much time, energy, monetary resources, and others, to say, I'm going to stand on something that's bigger than just me and my ability to play. And he did that. And I think it's a grand example to athletes to this day that are considering what does it mean to use their platform and speak up and speak out and against things that they see going on in society to do. And it might be a good example for people to say, you know what, maybe that's not what I want to do because the consequences are too grave. Like maybe nobody will recognize me for 60 years, which is the case with CB Claiborne. Maybe I have to live in that obscurity because I stand on something. But what we can say about CB Claiborne to this day, if we look at who was on the right side of history, we know from 1965 to 2025, CB Claiborne was on the right side of history. But as an athlete in 1965 to 1969, he paid the ultimate price for being on the right side today, which was his playing time and his inability to continue doing what he wanted to do as a basketball player at Duke. But now look at Duke men's basketball now. But just imagine if he didn't do that. So I just hope CB Claiborne's story can motivate individuals, athletes specifically, to think about what they can do with a platform. And, and they have to weigh it, what they want to do with it. But he was on the right side. And he says it all the time. He would do it again. And I just love that about him, that he would do it again, because not everybody is willing to do that.
When those 5 Duke players got drafted in 2022, what do you think CB felt seeing that record? How does his story connect to their success? You kind of alluded to it right there, but if you could just do a little deeper dive into that.
Okay, no problem. Simply stated, which I go more detail, but simply, if it's no him, there's no them. Yeah. If he doesn't come and do what he does in 1965, there's no them doing what they're doing in 2022 or 2025 there. Well, eventually it would have happened. But the thing about CB Claiborne and the thing about integration in that moment in the ACC was they were looking for the right type of Black person. And CB Claiborne, on paper, he was literally the right Black person for the role. He was a National Achievement Scholar, which was the newest program that President LBJ Johnson helped initiate as the signing of the Civil Rights Movement. He was the president of his student body at Langston. He was one of the smartest person, and he was one of the most talented basketball players in the state of Virginia, if not the country at that time. And so he met every criterion. But what they could not see on that paper, trying to get the perfect choice, was his commitment to his community and commitment to society as a whole in doing just that. And that is what the university didn't count on. But that was the piece that makes 2022 so special, is because when he came, he refused just to fit in. When they told him to cut his afro, he refused to do it, and he sat on the bench. And then in that 2022 season, a couple of seasons before, Duke men's basketball, they're viral on a global level for starting a haircut trend, which includes that same afro that CB Claiborne is not able to wear without consequence, but then they are able to literally go on the biggest platform and encourage kids from around the world how to wear their hair. And if CB Claiborne doesn't sit down on that bench out of force because he's protecting his identity, which the coach can't understand, those young men can't show up in the ways that they want to show up. And I'm not saying it's perfect, the system now, because it's far from perfect. And there's other control and surveillance that Black athletes go through now. But at the very least, he pushed through where they can exist in a way that they can use that university to fundamentally change their lives. Because you get drafted, you're making some money. That's just the reality. You're making some money.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you. This sounds like essential viewing for understanding how change really happens. When can MVAAFF audiences see this powerful 16-minute documentary?
Well, the best way for y'all to do it is on August 6th in Block 23 in Martha's Vineyard. We are in the short section. Make sure to look up CB. It's only 2 letters, y'all. You can't miss it. CB, and be there, and you will be able to see this in action, all the effort that has gone into it. And guess what? CB Claiborne himself will be there. And so you don't even have a chance just to talk to us, the producers and the directors. You have a chance to speak with the man himself and hear from him what it means to participate in his own storytelling on his terms and not on somebody else's. So on August 6th, next Wednesday, we're looking forward to seeing everybody at the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival and checking out CB and all the other wonderful films that are featured in the festival.
Well, I appreciate it, Javier, and tell Fumi, give her my regards as well. Thank you for this, and I hope to meet you guys next week in person. I'll be there.
Well, I hope we see you there. Anybody, you better be there. So we hope to see you.
All right, I'm local, so yeah, I definitely will check it out. Yeah.
All right.
All right. No, have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care. Bye-bye.